Hey guys, Nate here. We're joined today by Ryan Sanden from Stagecoach Farm and Forge. Ryan makes and sells handmade carbon steel cookware, and it's amazing. I've got one on my stove in there right now. It's all we use. And last year we made a video. My dad made some of these pans in his shop. You may have seen that. And my dad joins us in this conversation as well. So we've got two experienced blacksmiths, professional who are making a living from blacksmithing today. And if that interests you, you're going to love this. Let's get into it. Ryan, thank you for coming. You guys have both done something that a lot of people would be, maybe jealous is not the perfect word, but a lot of people dream of, which is find a way to make a living doing a hobby craft, working with tools, building things that they love. And I'm sure you've both, well, I know you, Dad, you've been doing that in lots of different ways over the last 20 years. So it's not like you cracked the code, in the last year or anything. And same with you, Ryan. You've been fabricating and doing welding for quite a while. But that's the point. I know a lot of people will go to craft fairs. They'll sell things on Etsy. That's certainly a good starting point. So, Ryan, maybe people haven't seen you, but let's have your background career-wise and remind them of where they've seen you before on our channel and that kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah, so, hey guys, name's Ryan Sanden, and I run Stagecoach Farm and Forge, and I make hand-forged heirloom quality cookware, and I just got started 3 years ago now, actually. Wow, it's funny to say that. It seems like just yesterday, but I guess it's been 3 years since I started this deal. And my background is in welding and fabrication. That's mostly what I did in high school. I took a welding and fabrication program.
And loved it.
And, as soon as I graduated, I got a job TIG welding and just worked at every kind of welding job you could imagine over the years. Ended up working for the Sheet Metal Workers Union, doing high-end TIG fab. And I also started my own business doing hand railing and doing fabrication and installing hand railings in Denver. And that was my first attempt at a business. Self-employment. And it went okay, but it was always kind of a struggle to get past that first initial step of like moving out of my home shop and hiring employees and kind of making it to the next level to be able to purchase bigger equipment. Before I got there, right when things were going good, the 2008 market collapse thing happened, and that kind of took out all my clients and stuff. And so I went back to work and started working for the Sheet Metal Workers Union after that and got a good welding job. So, so my background is in welding and fabrication. And when I first moved here to Oregon 6 years ago, I started just doing all kinds of random side jobs, whatever I could do to get work.
Built a couple tiny houses. I built some sheds for some people, like kind of unique artsy sheds for this gal who's going to do like a chocolate business where she was making handmade chocolate. And so I've pretty much just been a hands-on builder, DIY, teach myself how to build things keeping the wolf off the doorstep with your hands.
Yeah, mostly learning by trial and error and from your guys' YouTube videos and stuff, skill saw pro tips and stuff like that. So, if there's anything you ever need to learn, you can always just look it up on the internet, and that's great.
So both of you are, blacksmithing will come up a lot because that's what this has been for you guys, but woodworking and leatherworking and a lot of these principles apply to different trades outside of just blacksmithing. But Dad, that in some ways you had a similar, talk about your transition. You were contracting and building, and then you got your blacksmith tools. So how did you, hold on, let me finish with Ryan. First of all, you build pans now, and that's where people have seen you, and that's what you've been doing for how many years now?
3 years. Yeah.
Okay, you forge pans, I should say.
Right.
You are.
Yeah, all pans and utensils. So I pretty much focus on cookware related stuff. So that's been my niche and what's allowed me to, I think, to actually have a viable business is by really honing in and focusing on a specific product.
There you go.
Yeah, that was an exceptional path into blacksmithing to say, I want a blacksmith. I have to have something that's viable and sustainable as a blacksmith. Therefore, I'm going to make utensils and pans and kitchen stuff in order to function as a full-time blacksmith.
Yeah.
That's not usually the way that we do this,
No.
right? Yeah, because you started kind
Right.
of as a fabricator, fully qualified, as a blacksmith, almost zero.
Zero.
I want to do this.
Not almost zero.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, and so since I want to do this,
Yeah.
I found a niche I'm going to use I'm going to
Yeah.
exploit the niche because
Yeah.
it looks viable, and I'm going to learn to be a blacksmith
Yes.
inside this niche.
Yes.
That's a very non-typical
Right.
route.
Yeah. But I knew from, doing the hand railing and
everything else you've
everything
made.
else that I've made and done that I really need to be able to focus in. And, part of that is you also have to be willing to gamble, really. And that's really what it was for me. And it was sort of out of desperation because I didn't have any other way to make an income right then. I had just finished building a house for a client friend of mine. And when the COVID lockdown thing started, all the work went away. And there I was like, okay. And I just...
And Southern Oregon is Appalachia of the West. There's just not a lot of work around.
No, there's not a lot of
There's
work.
just not compared
Right.
to Denver and other big
Right.
urban metropolitan areas
Exactly.
where there's money, here and there.
Yeah, the options were very limited. And so I was really having to think outside of the box and get creative and to do some gambling to make it work, you know, so...
And you were aware that the internet was going to be your springboard to a market.
Yes. Yeah, I knew that the local market here wouldn't be able to sustain my blacksmithing work. I knew it was sort of a pipe dream to think about going back into making hand railings and doing custom projects. And I was really wanted to get away from custom projects just because each project is like having to relearn everything from scratch and redesign everything and the quoting and the bidding. 80% of the quotes and bids that I did would take up all this time and they would equal to nothing. I even had big contractors come to me and just use me to give them numbers. And they're like, thanks for the numbers. We'll never see you again.
Yeah.
So focusing in on the cookware, I knew that was my only shot to make it work.
Yeah.
You did a much different thing, and it was a different time. The internet was different then, but when you wanted to interject blacksmithing into your income stream, you had a different result. How did that work for you?
So I had I'll get the math wrong, but I had 30 years as a carpenter, builder, fabricator, welder, concrete guy, and probably 12 or 14 years as a general contractor here in Oregon. And then the blacksmithing tools dropped into my lap, and then I met Cy Swan, and it's just like Nate said, I thought, okay, I'm going to interject. I'm going to add blacksmithing as another revenue stream to to the things that I'm already building for people.
Right.
And so my only idea about blacksmithing viability was architectural ironwork.
Yeah.
Going with additions and remodels and that sort of thing.
Yep.
And everything that you just said about custom work is 100%
Yeah.
true. Every piece of architectural ironwork is its own whole. It's a Pandora's box.
Right.
Every project is a Pandora's box, and you crack it open when you start to bid it.
Yeah.
And everything jumps out of there.
Yeah.
And if you're really lucky, at the end of the day, you install it and it fits, and they pay you, and the check clears the bank, and they will let other people come in to look at it so you can use them as a reference.
Right.
But you don't make a shop rate.
Right.
You just don't make a shop
There's so
rate.
much that you do that you can't charge for.
Yeah,
all those
that's right.
trips back and forth to smooze with the clients and talk about their project and all the measurements and the jigs you got to build ahead of time to get it to fit right. And it's just...
But boy, it's fun.
It is fun,
It's
though.
actually it's worse than fun. It's compelling.
It is. Yeah.
It gets to where it's all you think about, and it's all
Right.
you want to do.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It becomes its own addiction, right?
Oh, yeah.
That install portion should be mentioned as like a major difference, because separate from making it as a contractor, of course you were going to install it, which probably added like another level to the challenge and complexity versus just handing it off and being like, I'm done.
Absolutely. I mean, that's part of the brilliance of Cookware.
Right.
You put it in a box and the USPS
Yes.
takes it and it's
Yes.
gone. And
Done.
because installation you're interfacing with modifying a structure,
Yep.
or at least putting holes in a highly finished surface, and the inevitable mistakes and scratches, you have to be qualified to fix them and make them
Yep.
go away. And there's no way to. And if you try to put some money in your bid to cover your butt on the way out for the damage you
Yep.
did, you don't get the job.
Right.
And so I'll just say this, and if Cy was here, I'd say it too. So I love Cy Swan. He has absolutely changed.
He's best.
He's the best.
Yeah.
But you want to talk about stress? Bring Cy Swan into the house on an install with
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Bring Cy in carrying one end of something. And whoops, I forgot to wash my hands, and everything I touch, I leave the marks. And I'll put a hole right. No, wait, Cy. You know, he's so driven to do something.
Yeah.
And so it was like it was an adventure taking Cy in on an install.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't trade that for anything
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
You know, but. So anyhow, the architectural ironwork is a thing you would do if you could. But
Yeah.
man, if you don't live in an area where there's lots of people who understand, who value handwork,
Yeah.
with lots of numerals after the first comma, if they're not ready to spend, pick a number between
Right.
$8,000 and $50,000,
Right.
You know, probably you ought to do something else.
Yeah, it's a tricky business to get into, and I think it really requires a pretty high-end market. And like the numbers that I would bid, that I would think are high, that I probably bid on some of these jobs in Denver, I bet the contractor, the interior designer, whoever got the bid from me would look at it and be like, that's a quarter of what
That's
we
right.
expected.
That's
and
right.
so he's not qualified.
That's exactly right.
And so it's like, we might think that $1,500 for this handrail is a lot of money. No. These other guys are charging like $300, $400 per lineal foot of handrail.
Okay,
and that's even low, you know? It's
Let's talk about that for a second. There's a guy named Dave Thompson up in Eugene. You would enjoy knowing Dave. He's got a huge art sense and a blacksmithing skill set to go with it, okay? And he took, 15 years ago, when Cy and I were first starting this, we went by there and saw a sample of this really ornate and artistically perfect railing that he was installing at the coast, and he happened to mention $1,500 a lineal foot. I thought, wow!
$1,500?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I was blown away until I took a job and I put $500 a lineal foot on it and lost.
Right.
And I was at a Northwest Blacksmith Association conference, and I saw a video. I can't think of the guy's name. It'll come to me, but he had this slideshow, and he had a non-disclosure clause in a railing that he put in somebody's house. Couldn't tell who it was for, how much it cost, or where it was at. Big dollars in the Seattle area, right? And but he did say, and it was bronze and iron and gold leaf and $15,000 per lineal foot.
Wow.
It just went up and up and up and everywhere. It were hundreds of feet at $15K per foot.
Oh, yeah.
So your point is so good. What you charge for architectural ironwork or anything else has no bearing on what you think it's worth.
No.
Yeah.
And there's somebody out there who's willing to pay, you know, $1,500 or $15,000 per square foot for the right work. You know?
Yeah.
I think when I was doing my handrail business like 15 years ago, I was doing real basic. Like a lot of horizontal round bar that looked like cable railing, sort of, because the cable railing was usually outside of my typical client's price range. And I was working with average homeowners, I would call them, not rich people. And I think I was charging about $130 per lineal foot for this hand railing, and I was bringing in about $2,000 per job.
Right.
And then I would like subtract all the expenses after that, and I'd be like, "Whoa, I got like $500 after all that," and I'm like, "Woohoo!" You know, and it was so that's why I didn't make it long in that.
Yeah, and
business.
at the same time, I was installing cable railing systems for $130 a foot, and wondering why I wasn't making money.
Yeah,
but we were having fun.
You could get a little closer; it wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, great.
So these, Dad, I remember you saying several times, but that it would bore you to make a product over and over. Like, let's say cookware. Do you still feel that way, or now with benefit of hindsight, do you feel like that might have made more sense? Or
so I've long known that even in construction, if I would have specialized, if I would have locked onto one thing and drilled deep, the likelihood of making money goes up.
Right.
You know, economy of scale and the value of repetition, and you only learn things once, and perhaps more importantly, you can train a crew to do it.
Right.
But so I've known for a long time that it was a hard way to make a living inventing a wheel all the time.
Right.
But on the other hand, I think I would have gone crazier.
Yeah. 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 I think it helped me to do all these random custom projects all over the place and to learn how hard that was.
Yes.
For me to appreciate the simplicity of learning the process and the steps to create one item over and over and over.
Yep.
There is a happy medium, of course, and that's kind of what I do as a solo worker in my shop now is I'm finding out like how many pans can I wire wheel before I'm sick of it and before it's just,
Can't do another one.
do it. And so I find out how to break up the work because there's I have quite a few products that I manufacture now in small quantities.
And it's a growing list.
And I can break it up. And so I can work on this, wire wheeling for a while. And then I can go to like my fun stuff, forging.
Yeah.
I love forging stuff. That's the funnest part of it all. And then we have the web work and we got all the social media stuff. And so there's no shortage of work to be done that's like all over the place.
Variety.
And so I break it up with variety by doing like, I'll have a goal. I'll do like, okay, I'm going to wire wheel 10 pans and press them out. And then I'm going to forge 20 handles today.
Wow.
And boom, I'll do that. And that breaks it up to where it's not too monotonous. And then I can come back the next day and do the same thing and it's fine. And
That's smart.
I actually really find pleasure in not having to think about it anymore. Like now I can just put I got these nice 3M earphones and I can put a podcast on and learn something while I'm working and I don't really have to think about it. I'm just like,
Can't do that while you're making a railing.
Right. You can't do that while you're making a railing. And there's just a comfort in that. And then whenever I'm like, my little girl comes running in the shop like, Daddy, look what I drew you a picture. And I'm like, oh, this is why I do this. Like, it's because I'm here at home. Yeah. And really that was my goal with this business was I didn't care what I was doing. I could have been selling, anything really. If I was working from home, that would have been a win for me. Yeah. And so to be able to not only work from home, but to be an artist and to be creating something that I truly love to create and that I can stand behind, it's like dream come true.
And when you are, let's say, running the business the way you are, even if there are parts like wire wheeling that would get boring or are monotonous, building the business and running the social media and being in charge, you're building other things besides pans. You're building this whole brand. You're building customer service, and I think that compensates for some of the menial labor.
I look forward
in a way that doesn't if you were just on somebody's payroll, wire brushing wheels.
Totally.
You're still building something. Besides the wire wheel pan, you're building Stagecoach. At the same time,
it's a lot of mental work. It's a lot of decisions. I'm not only a blacksmith, but I create social media. I've learned marketing skills. I've had to learn how to balance the books and how to build a website. And the list of how to be a photographer and so on and so forth. And so the list of things that I've had to learn how to do to run this business are really extensive. So I really look forward to breaks from all the mental decision making and just to be like, wire wheel a pan. That sounds easy. Do, and I can listen to music and just not worry about it. So
it's like, for me, it's like mowing. A lot of times I'll be like, I'll tell Allie well, I guess I'm going to go mow. Don't know what else to do. And she's like, because it's so nice to get out there and relax and just okay, I'm going to keep my hands busy. And meanwhile, my head can just turn while I'm kind of just on autopilot.
Oh yeah. I get the most flustered in between jobs when I'm having to make decisions on okay, I got to spend a bunch of money, get materials, and I got to figure out where to market next and to put money into either Facebook or Instagram or, you got all these decisions of all these different rabbit holes you could go down that might turn into something or might not. And that to me is the most stressful thing is having to make the decision on where your last little bit of money that you have left over from the last job, where to put it to make more money, and it's that's daunting always.
So what are your tips, unless you got anything on that to finish that? Any comment there?
Just the one thing about pricing and the trap of pricing things in terms of what we would be willing to pay.
Yeah.
There's a corollary trap that the value of something has nothing to do with how long it takes you to make it.
Right.
And Daryl Nelson, I think that's a Francis Whitaker quote. He was a big dog blacksmith at the Renaissance of blacksmithing in the 1950s, 60s. But then Daryl Nelson would say, and that knife cuts both ways, because people just, sometimes you may spend 3 days making something beautiful and no one sees the beauty enough to pay you for it.
Right.
And on the other hand, you may make something in 3 hours that you think is worth 3 hours of shop time, but the rest of the world thinks it's worth a week's wages.
Right.
You know, and so that whole trick about you have to push aside how long it takes you to make something, sort of, when you price it. But on the other hand, stop thinking about it in terms of what would I write? What check would I write if I walked into the store to buy this? That's also an irrelevant number.
Right. Yeah.
And then the last thing, and you touched on it, and maybe this is redundant. There is a client out there that cannot. In fact, you said this pretty much in the context of when you would give a bill to a designer or an architect, and they would disqualify you because it was too low.
It's too low.
There are individual clients who can't buy your work unless the price is high enough that they can brag about it to their friends.
Right.
Well, that's one of the satisfactions that we get, is either subtly or overtly letting people know what something cost us.
Right.
And there's a lot of people out there that have to spend enough money or they can't say anything about where they got it and how much it costs.
Oh, yeah.
And they're the clients we need, right? At least for architectural ironwork.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember when I was in Denver, I went and bid this handrail project that I got a cold call on. And I drive up to this place, and it was up in the foothills in the Rocky Mountains and right outside of Denver. And it was right on the side of this mountain, new construction. They had just blasted this road through like solid rock mountain, and it was just like the most amazing entryway to get down there. And I get down there, and I mean, it was the coolest house I'd ever seen. It literally looked like a mid-century castle. It was all stonework and these huge pillars and just
tasteful.
Just so tasteful and so cool, and just all this old beamwork and all masonry, and just it was amazing. And it was way over my head, like, and it was this was like for the most qualified blacksmith in the area that should have been bidding this, and here I am, like driving up there, like, okay, you know, and I could tell right away, like, they wanted wine cellar doors for their wine cellar, and also for their cigar humidor room, and then there was something like almost 400 lineal feet of railing on their like stone mason deck that looked out over the mountain that looked down on Denver down there. And you know, I did my best to like shoot for the moon with the bid, but of course I never heard back from them. But I always think back on that job and I'm like, wow, I bet I just so underbid that. And you know, but it's fun to think about and imagine, like, somebody built that, somebody got that job and did it, and it wasn't me.
And there are blacksmiths who are so accomplished at that.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
There's several of them in the Seattle area, and I will always be profoundly impressed by a guy named Steve Lopes, Lopes. I think he
I've heard
pronounces
his
it
name.
Lopes.
Yeah.
Man, his art sense, and he had at least 5 or 6 qualified guys working in his shop, and they would crank out material. And Bob Bergman back in Postville, Wisconsin, and they're Tom Joyce is the big dog, has been for a long time. And those guys walk in and they take a job like that, and when they're done, you think, there's museum quality work now all over the inside of this house. What's that worth? It's worth a lot.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
Blacksmithing is fortunate, and probably some other crafts as well, where it will last forever, like your cookware, and you can sell that. Excuse me, and you can put a price on that because
that's right.
Your product. Let's say it costs $1,000 for a pan.
Yep.
It doesn't. It could.
Yep.
It will last 10 lifetimes.
Right.
And so that is part of what people are buying, kind of like buying a gift. Like if I buy something for my wife or for someone I care about, it's like that, the value of that relationship is kind of wrapped up in the price I pay for this gift. And that's another reason why people, why trying to calibrate how much is this worth based on my time is,
it's the lifetime of the product. We call it heirloom quality, because to us, an heirloom quality item is something that is made to last generations. And it is a piece of functional art. And so that's what our cookware is. And, you know, most people don't fret about the price at all. They get it. We don't even have to explain it to them. But there's a lot of people who are like, oh my God, it's $230 for a pan. And so, every once in a while you have to explain to people that like, but this pan is going to last for many generations. And so what's the true cost of it then? And it's this beautiful piece of art that you get to like use in your kitchen with your family. It's something that you handle every single day. Cooking, and there's just it's kind of priceless, really.
Your kids and grandkids will fight like cats and dogs over it when
you
die.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
I think I have little kids, and we had two. Now we have one of your pans because Mom has the other one. But the pan that you made, Dad, in a shop. And I was thinking the other day, the kids are doing more cooking themselves now, and that's the pan we use for everything. And it was occurring to me, like, when I die, that pan is going to still be in the kitchen till when Allie and I are done.
Yeah.
And those kids will remember. I guarantee it, because you put that handle in your hand, like, you don't forget that. So they're going to come home at like 35 and find that pan and be like, oh, yep, there's the old pan. And the day I die, or Allie dies if she outlives me, one of those kids is going to sneak in the middle of the night and just like snatch it up. And so
then the value of that thing goes up, because then it's sentimental value, and it's just there is no value.
Leo's already had me put his initials on the back.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, good call. Probably I need to in fact, maybe I will just buy 3 more and put them away.
Yeah.
So that when the time comes, I could say like, actually, it was always 4 pans, like that movie. What's that movie? Prestige, where I was switching it out. You guys didn't know, but there's actually 4 of them, so you can all have one. But the point is, you can't price that heirloom aspect or the gift aspect. If somebody's important to you and you give them something meaningful, like then maybe it's worth that much more, just to because that person means that much more.
But here's another thing, that your window when you started this was perfect, because there was no way to make a living with heirloom quality pans in Douglas County before the internet. Couldn't do it. No one ever had. No one ever would. And so it's just one of those things in life where timing is everything.
It's everything.
And because you can sell those to the world, to the whole world. Therefore, it's a niche. And without that, therefore, it's a hobby.
And I knew in my mind, when I was thinking, like, how do I utilize my 20 plus years of metalworking experience and put it into something meaningful that I really want to do. And like, I had just gotten an anvil, and I was thinking about starting blacksmithing as a hobby, just for fun.
Because you're a metal worker.
Because I'm a metal worker, and I want to learn blacksmithing. And it's like the one thing in metalworking that I hadn't jumped into. And to me, at that moment in time, it was a total pipe dream to think about creating a business around that anvil. And but having enough time sitting on the couch with no work, like, what am I going to do? Like the anvil became more and more important in working from home. And so I knew I needed to create a product that was small enough that I could put in a box and I could ship it, and I could utilize the internet as my market to sell anywhere in the world. And so my first idea was to create barn door hardware, because I had already built a few. And so that was just on the top of my mind. Some people in the local community had hired me to build some barn doors and some rolling track hardware, which was just fabricated. But of course I grinded and made it look like it had been forged, because I like the look of the forged stuff.
And you got an art sense.
And I got an art sense.
You had to do something.
So I created this barn door hardware, and I got a good system for it that I felt like I could repeat. And so that was like my first idea. But every time I would really kind of try to jump into that as an idea, these red flags would come up. I'm like, oh, it's too big, it's too specialized, the market's too small, it's too trending. There's like homeowners, and then you look on Amazon for barn door hardware, and it's like, ooh, there's like a plethora of options. They're all from China, and they're like anywhere from 50 to, you could spend $250 and get some pretty nice like barn door hardware that looks pretty cool, and it's going to work fine. And so I realized that was a pipe dream to try to do that. And then I was on the internet searching around on Instagram, and I saw this company called Blue Skillet, and they were my first, aha moment of, these guys are creating these pans, and it's a small company. They're in Seattle, I think, and it's just a husband and wife operation. They work the business together, and they make like I want to say 600 pans or something a year, and then they sell them all at once in this big flash sale at the end of the year. And they had gotten a write-up in Cook's Illustrated magazine, and that was the one little media jump that they needed to just totally blow up, because Cooks Illustrated is big time. It's all the foodies. And so the name went out. They were instantly over their heads. But I really like their business model, that they had zero interest in like growing into a big company and mass manufacturing. So they just kept it small, and they've been doing it for quite some time. I don't want to say how long, but I think they've been doing it for more than 5 years already. And so they're like some of the original carbon steel pan makers that are doing this. And so I just thought, I'm like, okay, well, these guys are selling out all of their goods in a matter of, one day, like literally a few hours. All their work they've done through the whole year sells out in like a couple hours, right? And I'm like, so there's a market for that. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, I could figure out how to make these pans, and of course I'll do it my own way and put my own artistic twist on it. And it's, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's just a carbon steel frying pan, which is the original way that they were made before cast iron. Is blacksmith. You would go to your chuck wagon, and the guy would know the blacksmith, and he would make the pots and pans. And so so we're just going back to that old world craftsmanship. And
so let me say this: you are a quick study. Right?
Yeah.
You're a quick study. You've got hand skill. You know how tools work.
Yeah.
You've got an artistic sense, and you can visualize a sequence of events.
Yeah.
A lot of guys just can't visualize a reasonable sequence, in producing things like that.
Yeah.
And so I just want to, you've come as far as you need to be in 3 years.
Thank you.
Way faster than almost anyone else that I can think of.
Well, I'm obsessed, and I'm determined. And my social life is not that great. I mean, I just work all the time, and people come to me, and so it's, but all in all, I mean, I have zero to complain about. Like, my life is better now than it's ever been. I'm in the place that I want to be. I am, I don't ever see myself getting rich or making a ton of money off of this, but it's sustaining me, and that's enough, and that's a success for me. Is that
half the people just clicked away when you said that.
Yeah.
That's important to say, though. Because I think for the people who are listening to this, they want to be building it. That's what they want to do. That's the meaning to them is in building and making things. And so there you go.
My focus is not the money; it's the quality of life for me, and that's what it comes down to. Money comes and goes. It's not the most important thing in the world by any means. I don't really care to even, of course I need money to live and survive in this day and age, but for me, it's about quality of life. I would rather make a lot less money and be at home with my kids, and to enjoy what I'm doing throughout my day, and to feel good about it. To feel like I'm doing something good for the world and for the planet too. We're big on sustainability and keeping our business as green as possible. We really work extra hard and spend extra money not to use like plastic packing materials and stuff like that. And so anything we can do to support the green movement, we try to do. And so it just feels good, and so it feels good. And so it's just, it's a win-win.
Of your tips for the people who they probably have a different idea or product or trade? Let's give some tips with this as like the table being set, charged properly. Careful if you're taking on contracting work along with the thing you're making. But what are the tips for people who want to do more of this that you, I guess, both have learned about turning your hobby into a business?
Yeah, I have some good tips that I think are universal for a lot of different makers who are making some sort of artwork or some kind of item that is crafty, and they're trying to market it and sell it on their own and not jump into like major manufacturing or anything like that. But the first thing being, to have a sellable product, right? That like is, that people are going to want to buy, and something that's useful, and so for me, that's why I did the pans, because I get to mix these two worlds of function and artwork, and so
form and function.
It's a happy marriage between the two. I've never been one to just make pure art, which I always am kind of envious of people who do. but everything always has to have like a multi-function, stacking functions for me, you know, and
blur the line between art and craft.
Right.
You know, craft has a big aspect of practicality.
Yeah.
And doggone it, we all need a little practicality.
Right.
You know, so
Right.
art meets craft meets art.
Yep.
And so that's one tip.
That's
Let me jump
one
in on
tip.
you.
Yeah, go
hold
ahead.
Your thought. So a lot of people are so in love with what they're doing, they just assume everyone else will be in love with it too.
Right.
Okay. That's a trap.
That's not
and
true.
if you're not objective enough to be able to see that clearly enough that you can understand, like you said, whether or not there's a market, then you have to find somebody who can tell you.
Right.
And you have to decide if you're going to be willing to listen to them or not.
Yep.
Because we probably all can think of people who have started businesses, I mean, retail businesses or service businesses or separate from the making business, and you think, wait, nobody's going to pay to do that.
Right.
And 6 months later, nobody would pay to do that, and
Yeah.
those doors are closed.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And so just because we love to, I don't know, fill in the blank, doesn't mean that it's a viable business.
Exactly. And that's a really good point, you know, is that you got to think from the other person's perspective, from your consumer's perspective, not just you.
That's
and
right.
and that goes for pricing and for the product usability itself.
That's
It's
right,
like
the characteristics of the product and all of it.
what does the market want, you know? And so, you know, that's a wide range, but once you've got a product that you think is viable, that people are going to want, that's like the least most important thing as a maker is like, you got to have a good product. Without that, it's not going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
That people are going to want to buy. And then secondly, I would say is that you have to be willing to wear many hats. You cannot, especially when you're getting started, you can't afford to hire a web designer and to hire an accountant and a bookkeeper and to hire all these people that most normal businesses have to help them move forward. Well, you're going to have to figure out how to do that on your own. Luckily, with technology now, we got all these apps and things that, like, you know, the DIY person with a little bit of like, you know-how around how to work their phone and how to work with technology can figure out how to like use, you know, the basic like QuickBooks apps and stuff like that. But you're going to have to learn how to wear many hats. And I would say,
including the ones that are not fun.
Including the ones that are not fun. Yeah. So you got to be willing to do everything and to put in the work, and you got to be willing to pay for it yourself out of your own pocket, and to really put in the work to build a viable business, you know, which is like all the boring stuff. You got to form an LLC and do it the right way, and like start a bank account and get your EIN number, and all that like boring business stuff is very important at the end of the day. Like, you can't really get by without that. You can't go open a business bank account without first having an EIN number and an LLC to back it up, you know? And if you don't do that, you're just kind of screwing yourself later on down the road. You're playing, and it's going to come back and bite you, and it's going to be really hard to fix later on. And so that's one of my recommendations is like start out with the base being like, create your base, your foundation legitimately. Like, start an LLC, get a bank account that's separate from your personal bank account so you can actually keep track of your expenses. Which leads to the third thing is to figure out how to charge enough for your product. Because I would say that's, out of all the makers that I have as friends and that I see, that is the number one thing that we all struggle with, is the value of your item, how to calculate how much your item is worth and how much you need to charge. Because there's a lot of hidden costs that go into it. It's not just time and material. There's overhead that you get to divide and add that into the cost of your product, like all the downtime and all the, you know, fees for having your website and for the, you know, the accountant and the bookkeeper and the things that come in sporadically throughout the year. Like, you got to be able to add all that up and make sure that at the end of the day that your sales, after you've paid your expenses, are going to cover it and to still give you a paycheck. And it's, you know, over these last 6 months, it's gotten really hard to keep up with it because it's just, you know, with inflation, everything's just shot through the moon. But you got to also respond, and you got to adjust your prices constantly to reflect the current economy and things like that. So it's So building that like proper foundation for your business is super, super important. Having the right product that people actually want to buy is really important. And then figuring out your actual cost of business and what you need to charge is really important. And
so all of this, let me step in there. Part of that foundation is being honest with yourself about what your overhead is and reducing your overhead before you start your business.
Yes.
Because your cash flow is going to be way less than you think it's going to be.
Right.
But if your expenses are already something that you almost can't manage, you're dead before you start.
Yes.
And so if you decide you're going to go into business, the first thing you got to do is throw everything overboard that can go.
Yep.
That's not moving the boat forward.
Agreed.
Get rid of it.
Yep.
And then when you get your first check or 2 or 3 or 10, don't use those for a down payment on a new truck.
Right.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched you, if I remember, at one point, once you realized that this might be viable, you sold some stuff to invest in the tools that you needed to make your output more consistent,
right,
and increase the output. You didn't do that first.
No.
I thought, smart.
Yeah.
Find out if there's a niche.
Yep.
Liquidate some stuff that I don't have to live. That I don't have to live
yep.
in order to increase my output. My analog to that was when I fell in love with blacksmithing and started trying to kind of tie that into my general contracting. It provided a way for me to justify buying more tools, which I had put off for a long time because I couldn't justify it.
Yeah.
But with the income stream of the blacksmithing, it made sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like that chicken and egg. This is just the conversation about tools, but as contractors, tradesmen, it's so easy and fun to buy tools because you want them anyways.
Yeah.
And then you can justify it so easy because, well, it's going to help my business, so it's a business expense and da-da-da-da-da. And, man, it's so easy to go nuts down that road. It's also easy to hold back too hard and just torture yourself when a tool can like add
I'm on the flip side of the having gone nuts with it and probably gotten too much and like spent way more money than I needed to on certain tools, especially trying to set up a state-of-the-art blacksmith shop with zero experience as an actual blacksmith and like buying a hydraulic press and like having to reinvent this way of forming these pans that didn't exist before, and I'm making it up. So it was a lot of gambling, and there's definitely a lot of money that I wasted on tools that I could have saved if I would have had the knowledge that I have now.
Yeah, but we pay for our education.
Yeah.
One way or the other. The education has to be purchased.
Yep.
And you just
trial and error.
Well, everybody has to answer this for themselves. Like what tools and when.
Yeah.
And what is that wise balance that's going to allow you to like increase your productivity.
Yeah.
Conserve your cash and therefore cash flow and longevity as you get. And there is no like magic bullet answer. Everybody's got to answer themselves. We are always asking this question in regards to cameras and equipment in that way and investing in websites, just things that cost money. They're like, we could do that. Would it be worth it?
Right.
I don't know. And so everybody's got to square up to that and tool up appropriately and wisely.
Exactly.
Good thing about old tools, that's actually one of the real cool things about blacksmithing is you're buying old tools
junk.
that are valuable and will be valuable when you're done with them. You can kind of get your money back. That's really nice.
They might even appreciate over time
probably.
and be worth more.
That's right.
In fact,
probably will.
In fact, it probably certainly have.
Yeah.
I mean, your tools have probably not gone down.
No.
Not one of them's a lot of value.
No, like my little giant power hammer, 100-pounder. I could probably, I think I paid a lot of money for it. I paid $8,500 for it, but I'm pretty sure I could sell it for $12 today to the right person.
Yeah.
See, I'm about to experience the first real example of that not working in that Atlas Copco compressor that I run my power hammer with.
Yeah.
But that's not a blacksmith tool.
Right.
That's a towable compressor.
Did you know they emailed a couple months ago? Did you see that?
I corresponded with him just a little bit, and his niche in Atlas Copco is a little different. But I'm probably going to circle back.
Oh, what were you going to say? Is that compressor dying or what?
It is dying. Oh. It's pushing oil out. And so there's rings in there, maybe a broken ring or something.
Yeah.
But I'll just keep pouring oil in and compressing that air, and I'm not going to be back in the blacksmith shop for 6 months much.
Right.
Anyway,
engines are kind of a different animal.
Yeah.
Anything with compare an anvil, it's kind of like
that's this is not a blacksmith tool. This is just a towable compressor.
Yeah, there's a lot of compressors on the market, so it's supply and demand, I would say.
I bet you'll be fine though, because let's say you rebuild that whole engine for $4,000.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a screw compressor on a trailer.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
true.
price what a new one costs.
Yeah,
it's
true.
probably still like. I bet you'll be okay. It's more
I gave $2,000 for it.
See,
I've certainly got my money
There
out
you
of
go.
that. I just don't know if I want to get involved. I talked
Yeah.
to a mechanic about rebuilding it. And
Oh.
Atlas Copcos are great machines, but they're not. It's not like rebuilding a Ford or a Chevy.
Oh,
You know,
it's like their
fine to-
own motor or something.
Yeah, and it's a Deutz diesel. It's a great little motor, but I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll do the calculation and see.
Oh man, that would have been cool if that guy who emailed was in the right department.
Yeah,
He coulda-
he's not, but he said he would. Anyhow, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have the last and most important tip that I think will help other makers, and it's more important than than the product that you sell, having a solid foundation, learning to wear all the hats. Well, the thing that's even more important than that is that if you don't have a market to sell to, none of that matters. You have nothing. You have no business, right? And so learning how to be a marketer and who wants to buy your product and how to show them that your product is available and that they want it, that is the key and that is the only reason I've been able to do what I do. And so luckily in this day and age, like you had mentioned, we got the internet now and we have social media. Like you guys are YouTubers and you've made a name for yourself on YouTube, and you see how powerful of a tool that is. Well, there's a lot of different options out there now that you can market from. I have pretty much strictly focused in on Instagram as my main social media outlet for creating content and for finding customers and for getting my customers to my website to sign up for my email list, because that's the ultimate goal, is to get the customers out of the big wide world straight to your email list so that you can market directly to them. Yeah. And these are the people that are most likely to buy your product because they care about you and they've signed up with your email list. And so when you send them an email saying there's a shop update and you got this available, they're highly likely to buy it if you can pitch it to them the right way. So getting comfortable with producing content like you guys do has been the only thing that's allowed me to create a business in such a short period of time. I obsessively every day, constantly filming my stories on Instagram. And the stories, for those of you who are listening that don't know, are just these 15-second video clips that you can put up on your Instagram feed. And a lot of people just, it started out, people just put a picture up there, and companies will put a picture with like a 15% off sale, and it's kind of like sales pitchy stuff. Well, I hadn't seen a lot of people doing it, but my story, when I think stories, I'm like, a story is more like there's a beginning, there's an end, there's a plot to it. And so I wanted to make a story that was like a look into my day-to-day life and what I'm doing, and to give people something to watch that was more of an actual story. And so I would just do these stories updates all the time, every day. And it just started to build, and like you could see how many people view the stories, and it started out with like 5 people watching it on average, like throughout the day. And now I'm up to almost 600 people will see like almost every single story that I put up there.
Wow.
And some of the people that watch my stories are like diehard dedicated. You see them, they're watching it as soon as I post it, every single one of them. And I would say the vast
They're your friends.
They have become my friends, and I've made true, legitimate connections on there with really cool people who I have now met in real life and done projects with. And so it's a great way to make real connections. I've sold a ton of cookware to people and made customers through that. And it's all through Instagram mostly. And we've gotten to this point with Instagram where we're like, okay, we've tapped out our market on Instagram, and we can only reach so many people, and so we need to go with Facebook and we need to get on TikTok, and we're going to do all this stuff. And so we've tried doing that, and that's when it gets really confusing and hard to manage, is when you're trying to, like, Instagram alone is a full-time job. For my partner Jesse and I, we both work at it full time together. She's in the office and she does content and filming, and I'm doing content and filming in the shop, and we're putting all that together.
And that's just Instagram and just the Instagram. So you add in Facebook, and luckily you can click on the little button that's like upload to Facebook as well.
Yeah.
And so it just regurgitates your content into Facebook. Well, I found when you do that.
Let's not say regurgitate.
Okay.
I'm kidding you, man. I'm kidding you.
The feedback you get from the regurgitated content is really low. And it's the same thing. Like if you do a TikTok video and it has the little watermark, I've actually confirmed this now because I'm always reading tips on how to get the best performance out of your Instagram. Well, if you have a watermark on your Instagram post, they automatically like flag it, and it's like, whoop, they're not going to show it to anybody because it's watermarked. And so they know it's regurgitated content. And so they're not going to push it as their like main thing. So TikTok could be great, but just focus on that. That's my tip of the day is like, if you're going to choose TikTok, stick with TikTok, just go for that. There's like a bajillion people on there. You don't need that many people. We're trying to pitch to a small market. I'm talking 100,000 people, which is a lot of people, but there's like billions of people or maybe millions at least on TikTok alone. And so you got Instagram, same thing. Facebook is even bigger than all of them. But Facebook in general has like an older clientele. It's more old school, and you got more like your mom and dad are on Instagram or on Facebook, you know? So we've chose Instagram just because we like that. It's worked for us. But I think it would be smart to choose one of those platforms to promote your product on and just to stick to it and go really hard at it. We try to upload. I've kind of fell off of it recently because I got my kids here and the summer always gets crazy busy, but we try to post at least one post every day, and I do the stories all day. Wow. Like I'm doing like, you know, sometimes 40 or 50 of those 15-second clips in my stories. Wow. And now I've gotten my stories down to where you guys have seen the Instagram reels where there are these like short video clips and they're really high energy, high action and music and stuff. Well, now my stories are like this never ending Instagram reel. And I'm getting these really creative shots where I like carry my little tripod with me everywhere I go in my shop and on the farm. And I just film whatever I can do. And I kind of like Torsborn Amen. He's got this style of like blacksmithing. And then he always has a little break in the middle where he'll walk you around the farm and give you a little nature, a little break from banging on things. I like that. I'm also, you know, we have a farm and we love being in nature and we're always out in the garden and stuff. So it's like half and half. It's like all farming and like, you know, me feeding my pig and stuff like that. And then it's back to the blacksmith shop, you know? And so I try to break it up, and I get a little bit of content I get a lot of like we have a lot of homesteaders and back to the lander type people that follow us too, because that's what we're doing. And they're foodies into cookware and stuff. And so I don't want to bore them with just constant blacksmithing. Yeah. But I would say probably 70 to 80% of my like hardcore story followers are other makers and blacksmiths, and they're not even my customers. These people are not buying things from me. They're just watching what I'm doing, trying to learn and emulate, picking stuff up, you know. And so and it's great. And I am an open book. When people ask me for tips and things, I don't mind sharing it all because I don't really have anything to hide. If you're willing to put in the energy and effort that I have to make something work, good on you. You got just as much of an opportunity as I do, and you can do it. Yeah. But you got to be crazy and obsessed like me and willing to gamble and to come up with a good product. And I know from experience that it is not easy and not everyone will be able to make it.
If you just want a pan, your best bet is to just buy one. Don't try to like make tool up and make your own.
Right.
You think that pan's expensive. Wait until you buy a power hammer and press and do all the 10 failed ones before you get it. Well, that's amazing. Ryan, thanks so much. You've done a great job. Yeah. I'm going to put a few more points out here also because we've certainly learned a lot from doing this. And you've really done a good job at putting this all together in this day and age. You know, even 10 years ago, you would have gone to like art festivals and been trying to sell pans. Yeah. I don't think I'd recommend that for people. The internet is it's the sharpest tool in the stack. So use that if this is what you're going to do. Don't. Although I say that, and actually maybe I'll end on this. You saw the Tormek knife sharpener over here. This is a little different, but the guy who what's his name? Stieg, who sent us this. Mm-hmm. He said he knows a guy who goes to art festivals sharpening knives who makes a killing. Yeah.
It's certainly possible.
But he said, and I was thinking, that's kind of similar. You know, you're going around. But he said, and I was blown away. I can't remember the number, but it was like thousands of dollars a day.
Yeah.
Sharpening knives. I was like, oh, geez, I need to.
People make tons of money at country fair and all these places, but like you said, I think personally, I haven't had to do that even once. I have not sold a single pan to hardly anybody local. Maybe a few pans to local people, but none at any. I haven't even gone to any shows or anything. I haven't had to, and I don't really want to. It sounds like a lot more work and a lot more blah 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 than not enough greenbacks to cover it. You know, so
you've got somebody showing up out there.
I have a septic pumping happening. I think they'll call when they get here, but we're gonna wrap up. I'm gonna go watch this septic tank get pumped. I probably won't film that, you guys. I'll spare you the close up on the septic pumping, but no stories on that one. But thanks for joining us, Ryan, and we'll link to Stagecoach Instagram.
Thanks for having me.
And you got a website, and we'll link to the video because you made 6 pans, Dad, in his shop.
That was a lot of fun. We got to do another one.
Yeah.
And
the pans are. We are huge fans. I sent one to Allie's sister's family. He's really into cooking. He loves it. We're fans. I love having the pan. So if you don't have one yet, get one. And like I said, you got an heirloom in the making. So all right, thanks everybody. We will catch you next time. See ya.
See ya.